It's time for another episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas, the podcast covering the intersection of business, culture, entrepreneurship, and life in general here in the Ozarks. Whether you are considering a move to this area or trying to learn more about the place you call home, we've got something special for you. Here's our host, Randy Wilburn.
Today I'm with Omar Kasim, who is the founder of JuicePalm as well as Con Quesos, two outstanding establishments here in Northwest Arkansas. And I had a chance, I got invited up to meet with Omar in his JuicePalm store, which is right up here in Bentonville, in the, what's the area called again?
The 8th Street Market.
The 8th Street Market. There's a lot going on up here, right?
Yeah,
I mean, there's all kinds of new...
There's a showcase of local business here.
Okay. All right. Great. Yeah. And as I walked in, I remember looking at the sign, and there's, I guess, an extension for Crystal Bridges.
Yeah, the Momentary.
The Momentary. Do you know a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the Momentary, it's going to be ready spring of 2020.
Okay.
But it is going to be a satellite location for Crystal Bridges. And so in addition to having like the gallery and whatnot, they're going to have a restaurant there, a bar. They've got a field that's going to be dedicated to festivals and events and whatnot. They'll have artists in residence that will be traveling throughout the duration of their stay, be performing and whatnot. And so it's a really cool project.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. And for those of you listening to this podcast, in the background, we have some great ambient noise. Omar's got a nice soundtrack going in the background, and that blender you hear is juice being made. JuicePalm. Tell us a little bit about JuicePalm.
Yeah. So JuicePalm, first certified organic restaurant in the state of Arkansas.
Wow.
Yeah. So
okay.
Everything from farm to table has all been verified by the USDA to be certified organic and have certified organic practices. And so everything that we do focuses around health, wellness, sustainability, and just providing a quality product that's actually good for you. You know, and in the smoothie juice business, there's a lot of people that are selling health but not actually serving it.
Right.
And so what we really focus on is providing a healthy avenue through health, for health and wellness through our products and the events that we host as well.
Okay. All right. And now this is one of two JuicePalm locations.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Where's the other one?
So the other one's in Uptown Fayetteville.
Okay.
Yeah, on the off Steel and Joyce.
Okay, so you've actually got two of these locations in very up and coming areas. How did you manage that?
With Uptown Fayetteville, I just really bought into the vision and, was really excited about getting back into entrepreneurship, having the situation initially with Con Quesos before getting it back. And, I really bought into what that property and what that development was going to look like in the future. And I was at a Young Professionals Summit. They had asked me to speak about JuicePalm and entrepreneurship and whatnot. And so I gave my pitch, about JuicePalm, and someone that was in the crowd was Daniel Hintz, who was really leading the way in the development of 8th Street Market. And so after Daniel heard what JuicePalm was going to be, he reached out to me after my presentation and said, "Hey, I want to meet with you. I want to talk about this project we've got going on in Bentonville. You guys would be absolutely perfect for it." And talked it through with me. Initially, I said I wasn't going to be able to do it just because the capital management, I hadn't even opened the first one yet, and so. I was honest. I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to be successful. I'm going to try with every bone in my body, but there really is no guarantee. And he just said, hey, this is what we're going to be able to offer you. This is what the place is going to be like. And this is how we're going to help you to make it happen. And so after looking at the offer and really looking at what 8th Street was, it just seemed like it was going to be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be a part of a project like this. And so I told them that I would do it on the condition that I would have a year before, I would have to open. And they said, okay. And so over the next year before even opening the first restaurant, I had to start thinking in the mindset of, okay, we've got two restaurants. And so how do we do all this stuff that can be replicated? How do we put the systems and processes in place? I mean, you always want to do that in the restaurant world, but it's a lot easier and there's a lot more exigence behind it when you already have a lease signed for a second one.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly, I definitely want to dive into that. But first, let's rewind a bit, and I want to get into the superhero origin story of Omar. And you have a very interesting history. As I did my research and before we got together, and you were kind enough to grant me this interview, I had a chance to really, I mean, there's a really great video on your experience starting Con Quesos, and I think that was Startup Nation. Is that the name of the program?
Startup USA.
Startup USA, right. So, and we'll put a link to that video in the show notes. But I learned a lot about that. I mean, I had met you from somebody else that I knew here in Northwest Arkansas. And that's the thing. Anybody listening to this podcast, the thing that's great about Northwest Arkansas is you're usually just 1 degree from everybody else in this area.
It's amazing how small of a community it is.
And so I know somebody that knows you and thinks highly of you, and that individual kind of introduced us, and we met at an event at the U of A.
Yeah.
And then it kind of
financial responsibility.
Right, financial responsibility.
Why I was there, I have no idea.
It's all good. But I'm sure there's a lot that you could speak to on that subject.
You would think so.
But I just think it's kind of cool. It's the thing that I like about Northwest Arkansas is the fact that people are easy to connect with and to get along with. And, you were gracious enough to connect with me. And I know I reached out to you on Facebook, and we have kind of built a relationship that way.
Yeah, certainly.
And it's cool, and then because it's such a small area, we've run into each other in a lot of different places, including at Urban Land Institute event that you were speaking at last year, which just happened a little serendipitously. And I thought it was kind of cool. But anyway, I want to know about your story just a little bit. Just tell the audience a little bit about your background. You're from just down the road in Tulsa, right?
Yeah.
And you come from a family, I think your mom's from Peru and your dad's from Pakistan?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so you've got a very interesting family, and you got the entrepreneurial bug, honestly, right? Because your dad had a business, and maybe your dad's dad had a business too?
Yeah. I mean, my dad's an entrepreneur. My dad's dad was an entrepreneur. And growing up, the family business was, my after-school program. I would go, depending on what we were doing, at first we had a couple gas stations. And so after grade school, I would, go there. People knew me as Little Mo because that's what they call my dad is Mo.
Okay.
And, then as we started getting into retail, we opened a couple businesses in the mall. And so, I would be hanging out there like late at night, early mornings after school. And so I was working the register whenever I was 9-10 years old. And so entrepreneurship and small business has always been a part of my life. And so it's all I've really known, and I'm so appreciative of those experiences because I didn't grow up with an allowance. I didn't grow up, being taught how to handle a paycheck that I get an allowance every so many weeks. It was like, if I wanted something, my mom would tell me, okay, well, go work in the restaurant or go do this and make some money and then you can buy it yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think that also taught me a lot of frugality. I like to tell people I'm like functionally bougie. I'm a very simple person. I like to think of myself as a minimalist, but there are certain things that I will put a lot of money into, but it's the things that, something as small as like a pen that I use every day that I know I want something high quality, chef knives, like my life revolves around food, so I'm going to buy the top of the line of the chef knife, but something like a belt that I just needed to serve a purpose, and it doesn't really matter if it's $20 or $200.
Right.
I usually cut back on, and I attribute a lot of this stuff to my parents.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. So you obviously have a strong foundation that you are standing on, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's kind of, that's probably what gave you the momentum to even start Con Quesos first, which is the first company that you started before you rolled out JuicePalm. But tell us a little bit about that. You graduated from the U of A in 2015, I believe. Yes. And I know one of your former professors, Mark Zweig, who is taught teaches a class on entrepreneurship
Yeah.
there at the U of A. And I'm sure he impressed upon you a lot of ideas and things when you took his class.
Yeah.
And he actually said a couple of really interesting things about you. He said that you were always willing to ask the right questions of a lot of people, which I think is important, especially when you step out to start a business. But you were able to formulate your opinions, and you had strong opinions about what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you allowed the information and feedback that you got from other people, individuals that may have been around the block a few times, Mark included, to kind of help color your decision making as you stepped out into the world of entrepreneurship. Is that correct?
Yeah, certainly. I think one piece of advice that I always give to aspiring entrepreneurs is that advisors are meant to give you advice, but they're not supposed to be, calling the shots for you.
Right.
And so seek a lot of different, opinions and forms of advice from different people, but just understand that they're not in your shoes, and they don't know all the information that you know. And so ultimately you're the one that's got to pull the trigger, And so for Zweig and all these other mentors that I have, I seek their guidance and for mainly direction.
Right.
But ultimately, the decision's got to be mine. And there are times that you hear really great advice from really smart people, and you hear really bad advice from really dumb people. But there are also times that you hear really good advice from dumb people, and you hear really bad advice from smart people.
Yeah.
And so as an entrepreneur, it's up to you to decipher which is which.
Yeah.
No one can do that for you.
Right. Wow, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about the start of Con Quesos. And this is something I did not know until I watched this video about you, but that the cheese dip, or queso as we like to call it, was created here in Arkansas.
Yep.
And it's gotten to the point where it even went to a court of law to decide whether Texas or Arkansas could lay claim to cheese dip, or queso as we like to call it. So tell me a little bit about that history, and is that what spurred you on to start Con Quesos?
No, not necessarily. I think that's what helped find its voice.
Okay.
But I was planning on doing it before even then, and I stumbled upon that fact myself. Originally, Con Quesos, which I didn't have a name for at the time, was just a school project I was working on. I needed to finish my honors thesis because I was graduating a year ahead of schedule. And so I just thought about what was something that I'd be willing to work on for a year that I wouldn't absolutely hate, and also something that I wouldn't just put away and never look at again, until I showed my kids or something. I wanted to actually take this work and be able to execute it at some point. And so I looked at opportunities of me graduating a year early. What would that look like? How could I leverage that? And also just issues that I had going to college. And the biggest issue that I found, in Fayetteville, was that the food scene was just really lacking a lot of innovation in the area. I mean, this is 2015, so we didn't have Whataburger. There wasn't I think they had just built a Panda Express on Martin Luther King, and other than that, it was McDonald's, Taco Bell, and every chicken, finger restaurant, that you can name.
Right.
And so, for myself, I just wanted to create a concept that was really eclectic, unique, but was packaged in the form of something that people could really understand. So maybe a Hawaiian restaurant or a Caribbean restaurant or a Mediterranean restaurant would have a hard time surviving on its own, just purely being that type of cuisine.
Yeah.
But maybe a fusion restaurant that incorporated all these flavors in something common, like a burger or a hot dog or a taco, maybe that could make sense to people, and people would be willing to try a tikka masala taco instead of, just trying just straight tikka masala.
Yeah.
And so that's really what spurred the idea. And then after speaking with my advisor, Jeff Amrine, who's the principal at Startup Junkie Consulting, he just posed a simple question of, what's stopping you from doing this? And I had never been asked that before, and so I just thought it was a dumb question, to be honest. I was like, well, I'm going to law school, I don't have any money, don't have any experience in the restaurant world, isn't it obvious?
Right.
And he just, was like, well, if someone else, took this idea, took the work that you had and launched it, do you think that it would be successful? And I was like, well, yeah, of course. the research that I'm showing is showing favorability to food diversity. Like Indian food's the fastest growing cuisine right now. Fayetteville has a dense population of people, like a good influx of traffic, dense population of people from Texas that are used to concepts like this. So yeah, why wouldn't it work? And he's like, well, why don't you be that person? And I remember going home and like it started growing on me. It was just like a question that kept on like popping up, like, and it was being repeated louder and louder in my head. And I started thinking about it and was like, well, what is stopping me? Like, is it really that it's physically impossible, that I can't actually do this? Or is it because I'm setting a ceiling for myself and saying that I can't do this because I don't want to do this or because I don't think I can do it? And so I told myself that the following summer I was going to work on my business plan and work on studying for the LSAT every day until the end of the summer, and whichever made me happier and got me more excited, I was going to go and do. And I found myself more and more working 4 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours a day on this business plan, and saw myself studying less and less for the LSAT. And so before the summer even ended, I knew like this is something that I really needed to pursue. And so I intentionally didn't take the LSAT, told my parents that I had something come up, and all the while, I was working on this idea and telling myself, okay, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. Now, the whole idea of the cheese dip, I discovered that cheese dip was invented in the state of Arkansas when I spoke at a food innovation class at the university, and one of the professors mentioned that to me. He was like, did you know that cheese dip was invented in the state of Arkansas? And I was like, no, like, was it really? He's like, yeah, actually this weekend they're having the World Championship Cheese Dip Festival in Little Rock. And so once I heard that, I was like, okay, I've got to go to that. So I went to Little Rock, and
who can turn down cheese dip?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
That,
exactly.
So.
It's a really cool, it's in October if anyone wants to go. It's really incredible. It's a bunch of different restaurants, and you just walk around and get to test cheese dips out. And so people will bring these muffin trays, and we'll put like the little sample cups in each muffin compartment, and then we'll just like sit there and eat queso all day. And
did you taste some really good queso?
I did. Right. I did. And I got some ideas, and it was just kind of a cool experience to be a part of. And I remember eating at a restaurant called Local Lime after, and they handed out an array of salsas. And they're like, this is our habanero pepper salsa, this is our mango salsa, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of when it hit me. Is like, con queso, like that's got to be the name. That's the unique value proposition. Mm-hmm. That's how we tie everything back to Arkansas. Is it's going to be a restaurant that's revolved around not offering just like one queso, but offering a couple unique signature quesos, and we're going to be able to sell flights of them. And so we're going to be more than just a taco restaurant. And so that's kind of when it all hit me. And it's amazing how when you go through an entrepreneurial journey, like how things just really fall into place, and it feels like you're supposed to be going down that path. And that's what it felt like to me. I think that early on, if I wasn't meant to be in this business, if Con Quesos wasn't meant to be, like, there would be these roadblocks that would have just been like, turn away right now. Right. But I always saw opportunity, and that I think that's the difference between an optimist and a pessimist, is that an optimist will always see opportunity, and a pessimist will always see roadblocks. So maybe there were roadblocks, I just didn't recognize them.
That's funny. So, okay, first of all, I'm so thankful that you went to that cheese program, because you did create an amazing blend and assortment of different types of cheese dip, which I was pretty impressed with. I just recently had a chance to get a couple of them to share with my family during Super Bowl Sunday, which is kind of like the annual time when people have a pilgrimage to have cheese dip. And the cheese dip was great because you have all different types of flavors and ones that you're just not used to having, which I think is really cool. And and then when you marry that with all the different types of tacos that you offer, and I mean just a little bit of everything that you have there. And I've been fortunate enough to have gone to Con Quesos a few times, and every time that I've gone, the experience has been excellent. And the fact that you're right at the foot of the University of Arkansas, right on MLK, which is a main thoroughfare for a lot of really good restaurants. But I have to say, for the type of food that you offer and the experience, you offer something that's kind of unique that you don't normally see on that strip right there. So
yeah, most definitely. Yeah, the emphasis has always been to be a fast casual restaurant. So be able to provide that full service quality at the speed and tempo of a fast food restaurant. And so fast casual, that's really where the market's really going towards, and was something that I saw in my research. And so, again, I lived across the street from Con Quesos, and there was an ice storm that happened in 2014, I think.
Okay.
That required us to basically just walk around, I mean, it was cool for the first couple of days, but
right.
After that you get cabin fever.
Yeah.
And so we would just start walking to go places to eat, and man, it's just like McDonald's, Taco Bell, it was just fast food that just didn't taste very unique and just wasn't good for you. And so when I went through the journey of Con Quesos, I wanted everything to be chef-driven, really unique, eclectic, and again, provide that full service experience at the speed and tempo of a fast food restaurant.
Okay. All right. And then, so the rest is really history. Even though you had a roadblock there in the middle with Con Quesos, you were able to come through. And I think the bottom line is now that you're actually running Con Quesos exclusively, right? You don't have any other investors with Con Quesos?
No. I managed to buy the restaurant back from my original investor and buy him out. And so I have full 100% ownership, and yeah, it feels great.
Yeah, I think that's a story for another day, because it's a good cautionary tale about what to do and what not to do when it comes to entrepreneurship and starting something and having investors involved, whether silent or otherwise. So I think that's definitely a really interesting story, and people can learn a little bit more about that episode of your life on the video that we will certainly post in our show notes for this podcast. But let's just get back to, before we close, I want to talk about just the instance of marrying these two different kind of divergent ideas between JuicePalm and Con Quesos. Was that tough for you? Because I mean, you're going in one direction with Con Quesos, but you're going kind of in a different direction with JuicePalm. And how has that worked?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people ask me that too, and they're like, "You sell tacos and you serve health conscious smoothies?" And I always tell people that, food is about yin and yang. You've got to have good with the bad. And there's a time and place for eating healthy, and there's a time and place for having fun and, being able to indulge, and so we provide both experiences. So you never have to eat at any other restaurant other than mine in order to get both, right?
Absolutely.
But Con Queso, JuicePalm stemmed from my experiences at Con Quesos. I did the typical restaurant entrepreneur, route of working 120-hour days or weeks, and just open to close every single day, and it paid a really big toll on my body. I wasn't dieting correctly. I was going through all these different fluctuations. I always worked out, because if I didn't, I would just go insane. But I would find myself getting a little bit thicker than I usually would walk around, and then, or the other way, I'd get very, very skinny. And so it was because, just being on MLK, the only time I would really get out of the restaurant is to either go to Sam's Club or go to the bank, or, have some sort of, put out some sort of fire. Or I would just be in the restaurant for extended periods of time. And so I found myself either eating fast food or not eating at all. And so with that, I had the opportunity to travel to New York in July of 2016. I remember visiting a friend, and she worked in the fashion world. And so at that time, she was working a lot, and so she had to work all throughout the day. So it allowed me to go do touristy things, in New York. And I came across this juice bar, and I asked this guy, what is this stuff? This bottle's $10. How could it be that expensive? And he gave me all like the insight about it, about the benefits of it. This does that. It's going to have you feeling really energized. And one thing I always tell people is like, I am one of the greatest salesmen you'll ever meet. Like I can sell water to a mermaid. And I love hearing sales pitches, and I'll always buy into it. Like if someone's good enough at selling, I'll be like, okay, I'll drink the Kool-Aid. And so I bought, a couple of juices and everything and just tried it out. And I remember running around the city and just, Emily, my friend, had texted me and said, hey, I'm off work. Where do you want to eat? And it wasn't until then that it hit me that I hadn't eaten that day, but I was going to Times Square, the High Line, Madison Square Garden. I was running all around, just burning a lot of energy, but I felt really energized.
Right.
And it was that moment I was like, man, this cold pressed juice, like this guy was, he wasn't selling snickle. Like it's actually really good stuff.
Yeah.
And as I began to travel more and more to Miami, Chicago, LA, I started seeing these concepts around the corner. And I just always envisioned, okay, well, what if something like that was brought to Northwest Arkansas? Like I certainly would buy into it, because as a busy individual, it would be so convenient for me to be able to get something that's actually health, conscious, health focused, and be able to just grab and go and pick it up. And so that's really how the idea of JuicePalm initially started. And the situation between myself and my investor is what catapulted me to actually go and do it, because it was on my mind, since as early as I'd say February of 2017. And then once the situation happened in April, it was like, okay, well, what are we going to do next? And it's like that idea. It's kind of like that when a girl, like, you're dating someone, it's a toxic relationship, and there's this girl that's always been there, and it's like, hey, like, they just chirp in your ear like every now and again, and then it's like whenever you finally get out of that relationship, it's like, well, what am I going to do now? And that person comes to mind. Like that's what happened with JuicePalm. Is like, man, like that idea that I've had for a little bit, like what if I actually go through with it?
And it just came to pass.
Yeah, most definitely. And one thing that, Zweig always compliments me on is my ability to, rally the press and get free publicity and everything. And I don't know about if I have very much strategy for that, but I like to think that I'm a very good storyteller. And whenever the situation with Con Quesos happened, I remember just telling myself, like, I'm not going to let this be, a black mark on my entrepreneurial career that I'm going to shy away from and that I'm never going to talk about or anything like that. Like, this is going to be something that I'm going to turn into an opportunity, that I'm going to turn a negative into a positive, and tell my story about what happened, and also, follow up with why I'm more successful because of it. And so the story of Con Quesos was always, here's a student that graduated and opened a business right out of college, right in his alma mater city, and is able to do what he wants to do just with some hard work and some grit and some luck. And so the story with JuicePalm, soon became, here's a guy that had everything stripped away from him, but, through all this adversity, he's unfazed, and he's going to continue doing what he's going to do and show people that, that not getting what you want can sometimes be a wonderful stroke of luck. And I couldn't be any luckier right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've kind of set it up for me perfectly. You've talked about starting 2 unique businesses in Northwest Arkansas. Tell me, you graduated from the U of A, you got these 2 great businesses. What does Northwest Arkansas represent to you?
Northwest Arkansas to me is it's the Great West. It's the place that is there's so much opportunity here, and it's just right around the corner. You've got to see it. I've always bought into this area just because I was fortunate enough to be plugged in very early on, and have the opportunity to meet a lot of individuals doing great things around here. But it's just this perfect storm. There's a combination of big business here that is fueling the growth of the cities and the development and whatnot. There's the innovation and the labor force from the university students that have the ability to, to create something unique and launch it here, and we have the resources to do it. And so, and you mentioned this earlier, is like the community is unlike any other, and at bigger cities, it's a dog eat dog world. But here in Northwest Arkansas, it's incredible how many people are rooting for you, even people that are very like-minded businesses. There are people that normally everyone would think that is my competitor, whether it be with Con Quesos or JuicePalm, and we're on a texting basis. Like,
right.
We all like support each other and like say like, hey, this person's interviewing with you, like they're an awesome person, or hey, I ran out of X, Y, and Z, do you mind helping me out? Or we're planning on doing this marketing strategy, what were your experiences with this campaign that you did? I mean, it's like people really want to see you succeed here, and that's a really good feeling. There's no better feeling than when someone wants you to succeed as bad as you do.
I couldn't have put it better. You're absolutely right. And it's funny how I actually know people that work at Walmart, people that work at JB Hunt, people that work at Tyson, and they all speak glowingly of the different firms,
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people from the outside that, there's very few places that you can go where you've got like 3 Fortune 50 firms all within 10 minutes of each other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of cool. So that establishes a nice base and foundation. Our unemployment rate is virtually non-existent here in Northwest Arkansas. And then you have amazing entrepreneurs like yourself who at the ripe old age of, you're 24 now?
25.
25,
yeah.
I'm sorry, 25. I want to shortchange you that year. But, you're only 25 and you've got 2 amazing businesses happening right here in Northwest Arkansas. So...
Yeah, it's it's been an incredible journey, and I'm so thankful to be a part of this growth and be part of the story. It's like I said, I'm a big visionary. I buy into what people are selling, and I can see it. I mean, even here in the 8th Street Market, everything that's happening around us, it's going to be good, and I can't wait for that day that I'm able to sit back and tell people this is what we had to do to make all this happen for you guys.
Right.
And, back in my day, this road is only 2 lanes, or something like that. Now it's like a 16-lane super highway.
Man,
Hopefully we don't ever get to that point, but
right.
You know what I mean?
No, I do know what you mean.
It is really cool, and it's, you can see it. It's been done in Silicon Valley and Austin and Denver, these just big booms. And I'm very confident that either, between us and Nashville, it's like those are the spots of the next big boom. And, there's some great things happening here, and it's easy to get your foot in the door right now. So you might as well do it.
Okay. Well, there you go, folks. There you have it. Omar Kasim from JuicePalm and Con Quesos. Omar, before we close out, why don't you just tell us one of your favorite places to eat, besides your restaurant, of course.
Yeah. One of my favorite places to eat, I'd say, is 28 Springs in Siloam.
Okay.
And it's just, it's a diamond in the rough. You would never expect a restaurant with its interior design, its quality of food, to be in Little Siloam. And it has a special place in my heart because throughout my entrepreneurial journey, even though Tulsa is only 2 hours away, that's far enough to where I really can't visit there all the time.
Right.
And so, especially just with my career and the hours that it requires and whatnot. And so my parents would always agree to meet me. It's like, hey, let's meet halfway in Siloam.
Right.
And we would always eat, at all these different restaurants, but we came across 28 Springs, and again, I've had the opportunity to travel to 19 different countries. My parents, I don't even know how many countries they've had to travel, and we were both surprised at the spectacle of this restaurant. And so it's the place that whenever we meet, in the middle, it's like we're always there.
Yeah.
And so, it's a great restaurant. I encourage everyone to go visit it.
That's cool. Yeah,
locally owned as well.
Right. And so for people that are just listening to this that may not be from the area, Siloam is like right on the border of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. It's just due west of it's part of Northwest Arkansas, but it's due west of Fayetteville and Bentonville.
Yeah.
On the way to Tulsa, and that's the nice thing is everything is so interconnected. But you're absolutely right. And so tell me real quickly, what's your favorite thing to do here in Northwest Arkansas when you do have some free time?
Yeah, I think my favorite thing to do here is to explore the outdoors. We've got amazing trail system. The Razorback Greenway have amazing hiking that is as little as 15 minutes away. I mean, you can go to Kessler. There have been times that I've taken an hour break, at Con Quesos and just gone and seen the sunset at Kessler. And for people that compare Northwest Arkansas to Dallas or, LA or Chicago, you're comparing apples to oranges. If you look at this area in terms of like high rises and arenas and things like that, like Dallas is going to be a more promising area that's going to have more things to do. But if you truly really enjoy the outdoor lifestyle, that type of culture, there's no better place than Northwest Arkansas. I mean, it is incredible how many places I've managed to hike, that I've been an hour away or so.
Yeah.
And so it's my great escape. I really enjoy the solitude, and just the fresh air of being able to sit outdoors and experience all of that. It really is. It's rehabilitating to me.
Okay, cool. Well, there you have it, folks. Omar Kasim, owner of Con Quesos, owner of both JuicePalm locations, one in Bentonville at the 8th Street Market, which is right across from where the Crystal Bridges #2 is going to be, as well as right around the corner from the new Walmart headquarters. And then also just doing some amazing things here in Northwest Arkansas. So, Omar, we thank you so much for
thanks for having
being
me.
with us. And if you are visiting the Northwest Arkansas area, check out Con Quesos. It's on MLK, just south of town in Fayetteville, right below the campus. The JuicePalm #1 is in Uptown Fayetteville, which is uptown Fayetteville.
Yeah, across from the Malcolm Movie Theater.
Exactly. And then the final one is the new JuicePalm here in Bentonville. So you got to check them out when you're in here. Tell them that you heard about it first on the podcast. And again, we appreciate having you on. And since you're our inaugural person to be on the podcast, man, this was certainly an honor. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Glad to be the first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So folks, we will see you next week. Take care from now. Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of I Am Northwest Arkansas. Check us out each and every week, available anywhere that great podcasts can be found. For show notes or more information on becoming a guest, visit IamNorthwestArkansas.com. We'll see you next week on I Am Northwest Arkansas.